My favorite singer. You know the Beatles.
So, hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good
So,
morning,
please turn
ma'am.
on your cameras.
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Good morning, ma'am. Guys, please turn on your cameras. No energy.
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
There are 65 students in this meeting and only few cameras are off. Why is this so?
The
Good morning, Anjali ma'am.
good morning, ma'am. Good morning, guys.
Guys, so please turn on your cameras. Now ma'am is also
Familiar faces. Do we have new students in joining also, apart
yes,
from the Pehel team?
yes, some are.
Okay.
So guys,
Let me
how
know
was your
when to
preparation
start.
going on? All good? So रुचिर आप अनम्यूट करके बोल भी सकते हो.
Great.
ओके. सो कोई टेंशन एनआईडी के लिए अभी भी?
A little.
Okay. So, ma'am, shall we start? So, one day, whole revision, marathon, right?
Yeah,
Academy.
let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and let's start with it.
Okay. So, guys, are you ready with your pencil, papers?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I just request everybody to please turn on your cameras.
Yes. Oh, Pehel Indore team is like full class login. Very nice, Pehel Indore. So, Kopal, Prakriti, Vyakita, Molly. So, please, guys, turn on your cameras fast. There are 94 students in this meeting and few only logins. Why? गाइस आप लोग YouTube पे भी दिखोगे तो प्लीज कैमरास ऑन कर लो।
Deep
आज आप
diving, deep
लोग
dive
सोशल
into
मीडिया
it.
पे जाने वाले हो। YouTube पे सब थोड़े थोड़े कैमरा ऑन हो गए। ओके, हनी, अदिति, जेसिका, कोपल, प्रकृति, स्तुति, सहाना। देयर आर लॉट्स ऑफ नेम। आस्था, आस्था कौशिक, आयुषी, अभिलाषा, अभिश्री गोंगली, अदिति, अदिति पांडे। गाइस मैं 94 नेम्स नहीं देख सकती, प्लीज टर्न ऑन योर कैमरास फास्ट। मैम इज आल्सो वेटिंग।
The sooner you guys cooperate with her, the better it is going to be with you people because we have a 2 hour window. So that window is already started.
यस।
So to understand that we've got too many topics to go through, the sooner you guys cooperate and start your windows for the camera, the better it would be for us. All right.
ओके।
I'm
ओके।
going to start with the session now.
यस मैम। ओके, गो अहेड।
Perfect. So in the next 2 hours, we will be talking about communication design sections, specifically about logo, pictogram, icon, certain signages, a little about poster, banner, postal stamp, and we'll be talking about storyboarding, process drawing, and also a little about product family, as in redesigning of product or problem identification of it. Of course, the other faculty who will be joining us later, which is Harshit sir, will also be dealing with certain topics that I am going to talk about today, like product. Um, both of us are going to give you guys a little tip, probably I'd say, or a trick that you could use in your examination to reduce your time that you will be spending on each question, and how can you make your answer a little more enhancing. Before I start with the session, anybody over here who has a problem with English as a language and would want me to continue in Hindi or a mixture of both? Are you guys okay with English as a language?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Perfect. All right. So let's start with the first and the most easiest topic that we know of, which is a pictogram, right? Any idea what that word means? If you've heard of it, if you've come across, and how is it relevant to us in our day-to-day life? Anybody would want to take a guess? Nobody? Have you all done that topic? I'm sure you've done it.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
pictograms.
Yes.
Ma'am, ma'am,
Yeah, yeah.
pictograms tell us do's and don'ts.
Perfect. All right.
Actually, pictogram
It's mainly
help
inside of the buildings, ma'am.
Okay.
uh,
Yes,
pictogram
Ruchir.
helps
It is
with
on 2D, right?
communication, right? When it helps with communication, communicating visually. So
Mm-hmm.
when you see pictogram, you don't need to understand the language. It breaks the language barrier, and
Mm-hmm.
you can visually tell what is going on. So that's
Perfect.
it.
Perfect.
A
As the
picture
word
with
itself suggests,
a
yes, who
picture
was
with
that?
depicts Kanak, ma'am. A
Yeah,
picture which depicts
depicts like a picture जो हमें depict कर दे कि एक word particularly given है हमें, like a topic which have been given to us and we are showing it in a picture way, like a drawing
Okay,
way,
so
in a
like what
drawing.
Ruchir mentioned, that it's a way of communicating, a visual communication का part है जिसमें आप whatever you want to put across, whether it is an action or something which you're supposed to do or do not, that is shown through an illustration. Now, one thing that we have to understand while designing a pictogram is, yes, it's supposed to be in 2D, something which is easily understood by the person. We have to go with that illustration because it is supposed to be understood by a layman. A person who does not understand the language of design should also be able to understand what they are trying to put forward. Now, where do we see these illustrations, or where do we see the pictograms happening? They are available in your open spaces, which is an interior, like offices, hospitals. That's where we are talking about. Now, some might say that we also see, pictograms or these kind of information at your bus stops or bus stands, or we see them at metro stations. Do they fall under the same category of pictogram, or is it called by a different name?
Ma'am, they are
become
signages.
Perfect.
signages.
Perfect. The language, which is illustration, the design remains the same, which is 2D illustration, but the moment their placement is changed, automatically the meaning of it changes. Now, when we talk about these pictograms that are available to us in closed encountered spaces, like maybe a classroom where it's said that, silence, please, or when we are talking about a hospital where it says, do not spit, wear mask, do not put your phone on ringer. All of these information that is given through an illustration or an image, they become a pictogram. When it is illustrated out in the open, like maybe we're talking about a bus stop or a bus stand, or maybe a playground or a park, all of these illustrations, they become signages. Even the ones on the road or the highways, they all fall in the category of signages. Now, when we're talking about pictograms, you must have realized that these illustrations follow also a certain color category, right? Anything which is related to an information which is related to do's, you would find them in maybe blue or green. Anything that says do not, it's supposedly found in red and accompanied with black or accompanied with blue, like no parking. You will find that in blue and red. You will find that in black and red. You will find that in white and red as well. Anything which is related to let's say board signages where they tell you the directions. What kind of color do they use in that for directions, like a U-turn or any of that? Sorry?
Ma'am, blue.
Green and white.
And blue and
Green and
green.
white.
Ma'am, red and
Blue.
black, white.
Red and black.
Yellow
Okay.
and orange.
Ma'am, yellow also, right?
Blue and white.
We're getting multiple answers over here. So whenever the visual area is at par with your eye level, all right, when the vision line is near your eye level, a little above your eye level, it's fine. But it's somewhere in the close vicinity of your visual context. It is majorly in your white and red, or you will find that in white and black. But anything which is above your eye level, which is placed at a certain height, like we'd say on a four-way lane or near a highway, you will find that they are majorly done in green and white or blue and white. Anything related to that, right? So when it comes to illustration, as per whatever the government has asked us, or as per government norms, these highway signals or highway signages are already directed. But when you're asked to redesign them, you cannot design something extremely out of the box, or something that not a layman would understand. If it is a U-turn or if it is a right turn, it's supposed to be something that would be understood by everyone, which means arrow. Arrows, they are the easiest way to understand. But instead of drawing a normal arrow, you can use a law, which is law of closure. You can use anything which is related to, can you all see? Is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So when we're talking about law of closure or law of similarity, I'm sure you guys have heard about these laws, right? They fall under the category of communication design only. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, ma'am, but no.
Who is this person?
I'm sure.
Ma'am, could you please briefly explain it?
Okay. So I think I should have started with that only. Give me a minute. All right. Is the screen visible to everybody?
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Perfect.
ma'am.
So when we're talking about these laws, firstly we have to understand in which category do they fall. They are all called Gestalt's law, right? And in this we'll talk about law of similarity, law of proximity, law of continuity, law of closure, figure ground. Now, what are all these words? We've read them or we understand these words very easily. Similarity is what? Anything which is similar looking. The elements that look alike, our brain tends to club them together. For example, if you look at the logo of Indigo, the whole logo is made up of circles, right? And your brain tells you that these circles have to be clubbed together. If it was a mixture of circles and triangles, your brain would have read it as two different outcomes in that case. Now, for example, if I give you a data over here, can you tell me how is your brain reading this data?
Triangles as different entity and circles as uh, clubbed.
Together.
Yeah.
So we are reading it as 3, 1, 3. Isn't that? Three circles,
Yes.
one triangle,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
3 circles again.
Mm.
So what did your brain do? It started reading the similar looking elements together, clubbed it into one. The different one was clubbed in separately, and again we have another one over here, which was a repetition of the first. So your brain again read it as one single element. In similar looking elements, where else can you find that? Can anybody give me an example where similar looking elements are clubbed in together? Any logo you've come across for any brand?
Carrot lane.
Olympics logo.
Perfect.
Olympic
Carrot
symbol.
lane, Olympics logo. Now, Olympics logo, can you describe that logo for me?
5 circles
Rings.
in one row, then 2 in another row.
5 circles or 3 and 2?
5 circles, I think. 3
Three
and 2.
circle and then 2 circle below that. Intertwined.
Yes. Totality, it is 5. It is 3 and 2, right? And not just the law of similarity, but you'll also find another law that is accompanied in that, which is called law of continuity. All these circles are intertwined to each other. That is why your brain is reading this whole as one. Now imagine if the same logo was made in this way, where one circle is here and another circle is over here. Now, do you see a breaker over here? There's a distance happening over here. So when I'm asking, tell me a little about this logo, it would be a little difficult for you to say it into words wherein you will go by that the top 3 circles are intertwined, the lower ones, they are not intertwined to each other, but to the top level. So in that case, it becomes like this. But if we are talking that all 5 circles are intertwined to each other, another law is supposedly followed over here, which is called your law of continuity, where all of these circles are in continuation to each other. So your brain will read it in the most simplest way, that they are all circles overlapping each other. Another example for law of continuity, anybody who can give me?
Audi.
Audi.
Mastercard. You can also take Mastercard in that.
Yes, perfect, perfect. Now, the if you've remembered the last logo of MasterCard? What was it? Has MasterCard ever had a logo in which they were intertwined and in the
Yes,
center
ma'am.
area or the intersection area there were
Orange and
lines?
yellow. Red and yellow, ma'am.
Red and yellow.
Yes. But now my question is, have you seen that logo of MasterCard where
Ye-
the circles were intertwined and the
Yes, yes,
intersection area had these lines over
yes.
here?
And the
Yes,
MasterCard
ma'am.
is written in white.
It is, right? Wherever you find a certain thing like this where incomplete image is given to you, but still your brain is reading it as a complete image, that law is called your law of closure. Another example I'll give you. We just discussed about indigo, right? How does your brain read this? What do you think this is?
It's a flight, like a
Aeroplane.
single image.
A
Ma'am, yeah.
plane made up of
Right,
Plane.
right.
birds.
It's a plane take off karte hue, right? That is why it is in this direction. Now, in this, we also have law of similarity because all the elements that are similar looking to each other, they've been clubbed together and we read it as one single image. We have law of closure being followed over here because even though the image is not done with straight lines like this, it still is read as a complete closed image. So if I'm talking about something like this, can you tell me what this looks like?
A circle.
A circle.
Ma'am, a circle.
To be called a circle, it should have a line close to each other, right? But your brain is reading this as a circle. Why? Because it knows that the circle looks like this, it moves like this, and so this incomplete image is read as a complete image circle over here. So that becomes your law of closure. Got it? Now,
Yes.
in order to make an element be fitting in this category of law of closure, we need to have law of proximity. Now, what does proximity mean? Proximity is the proximal distance between two unfinished elements. Like in this case, the distance between each unfinished image was the proximal distance that we were talking about. Imagine if the distance was increased, then what would happen? The image would look distorted, obviously, and it would not look the same. Let's say if I'm talking about this, does this look like a circle now?
No.
No.
No. Why? Because the proximal distance has increased, right? Hence, the illustration does not look like a closed image to me anymore. But I know somewhere that it is close to a circle. But in order to make it look like a complete circle, I need to have law of proximity along with it. So it is basically the distance between unfinished images. Any problem in similarity, proximity, continuity, and closure?
No, ma'am.
Perfect. We move on to the last, which is called figure ground. Now, this particular law is made up of two words. First is figure, and the next is ground. The figure over here means image, and ground is obviously a space that we are talking about. Like we've talked about the element of design, wherein we have negative space and positive space, which helps us understand if there is a background or a foreground happening over there. So how many types of grounds are there? There are three types of grounds, which is foreground, mid-ground, and background. Foreground is whatever you are able to see coming towards you. Like, for example, if I have a space that is given over here and I end up making maybe a 2D composition over here, right? So in this case, I have three images, three shapes given to me. This being in the foreground. Why? Because the whole image is visible to me completely. Below this is this triangle because I am able to see a certain area which is hidden by the the circle over here. So this now becomes my second layer and then becomes my third layer because this triangle is hidden by both of these shapes. So when I'm talking about different grounds over here, the last area, the open space that I have, that becomes my background, which is also called the negative space. Then the area that is used or covered over here, the triangle, the circle, and rectangle, this is my positive space because that is occupied. But now this positive space which is occupied can also be broken into different grounds. The area which is completely visible to me, the full area, which is the circle, this becomes my foreground. And the remaining two triangles and this rectangle, they become my midground. So when we're talking about figure ground, it is something that helps us understand how these different grounds play together to form an image which is not the direct image the designer wants to show. So basically, it's a hidden image. So I'm sure that this particular forwarded image was seen by everybody once. Can you please turn off your camera or the audio phone, whoever the person is? What do you see in this particular image?
Two faces.
Two faces. This and this.
A vase.
You see anything over here?
A vase.
So if
Like an
I,
abstract vase.
yeah,
Painting, candle,
so
or hourglass.
perfect. So if I color this area now which is the most prominent one that you're able to see?
The
The
vase.
shaded part ones in the middle.
The middle one. So over here, the designer is trying to show two images into one only, where one is the hidden image and the second is the most prominent one. So the first image that you're able to see is the center one, candle or whatever you're talking about, the center one. And there are two hidden images over here, which is the face. So figure ground is basically a hidden figure that you're able to see that acts up because of the different grounds that we are playing with. Now, which logo or which company has used this? Companies like FedEx has used this in their logo. Company like Toblerone, they've used this in their logo, wherein they've tried to show a hidden image. In FedEx, they are showing an arrow between E and X. In Toblerone, you're able to see a bear, which is in the negative space, where you have your mountain that is into pieces, and the negative space over here is forming a bear. So the companies that we see in day-to-day life, they're already using these laws. It's just how are you going to use it in your examination? So when you're asked to design maybe a logo or maybe a pictogram, that is where you'll be using these laws. And in your examination sheet, if you've used maybe law of similarity or law of closure somewhere, like if you've seen certain places wherein they make illustration like this. These are all broken rectangles and they are forming a U-turn like this. What does this image mean? That you're supposed to control your speed while turning because the line is broken. If I give up one arrow like this, it means that it is a smooth and a quick U-turn from there. But when there are breakers given, it means that you have to maintain your speed, which means there are chances of, hitting a car or something like that. That is why these breakers have been given over there. And this is what? This is law of closure. And this also has similarity because I'm reading this as one and then I'm reading this as one. This is my end goal over here. Is everybody able to understand what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. All right. Now, shall we move on to the topic that we were talking about, which was logo and pictogram and signages? So we have an understanding how we are going to use this. The companies and how you can read a little more about it. You can just Google Gestalt's law and a list of these laws will just pop up with certain examples, or you can even Google brands that use law of similarity in their logo. So you will have a list of them, like Adidas uses law of closure, Dabur uses, Woodland uses this particular law in there. So somewhere or the other, I think you guys have already been using it in your answers. It's just you're not aware of these words. So once you are aware of them, and once you can recall which word to be used with which law, if you just put this in your answer sheet, law of similarity, law of continuity, and then you're giving alternatives to your answer, then automatically the examiner gets an understanding that, okay, you're aware of these laws and that's what you've been using. So it's not just a hit and trial method that you're doing. You are aware of the theoretical piece that goes behind it, behind designing that, right? So it's just an add-on point to your answer in that case, right? Now let's move ahead. If we're talking about pictograms, try to go with something which is minimalistic. Like in yesterday's class, I was discussing with students for, let's say, if you're talking about restrooms, right?
A question.
Yes, tell me.
What kind of questions do we see in the exams? Because we'll be giving a MCQ question. So is this for
Yeah.
part B?
No, this is something that you can use in the drawing part. I was coming to that, how we will incorporate that
हाँ, okay. I
in the drawing
understand the
part.
concept, but answer
Yeah.
लिखना तो नहीं होगा ना कहीं पे?
नहीं 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 नहीं
Okay,
नहीं
okay, okay. Okay.
No,
Thank you.
they will not be asking you to
Hmm.
explain it or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Probably they'll give you, if in the MCQ they ask you, like they'll give you 4 options like these, right? In which one is Adidas, and one is maybe
Hmm.
your Wi-Fi sign, and they'll ask you that, what is the similar or what is that one law that is similar in these, and they'll give you 4 options to it, like law of proximity, law of similarity, figure ground, or something like that. So you just have to choose one of them. Maybe they can ask that, right? Because
Okay.
that is one theory that you're using in the main drawing part also.
Hmm.
That is why I told to go through as many examples as you can to have an understanding as to what law is used for what kind of an illustration,
Okay.
right? All right.
So
Now,
इसका answer is similarity, जो the one you drew.
in this, yes, law of similarity is there, and also law of closure, to have an understanding that this looks like a mountaintop that
Hmm.
we are achieving over here, and this looks like radiation that we are getting. So yes, law of
Hmm.
similarity is there because similar looking elements are
Similarity तो समझ
present
गया मैं
together.
हाँ.
Similarity तो है ही है इसमें,
Hmm.
right? So yeah, the one that you find the closest to when you look at it, and go with the gut feeling in this, because a lot of times if you sit and think too much on it, that okay nahi ye, that is where you go wrong. So go with your gut feeling. If it looks like similarity, go with that answer.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. So when we're talking about let's say pictograms, like we just discussed, that pictograms are majorly in 2D, not majorly, but yes, they are in 2D. And something which uses these laws that we just talked about. So let's say if I'm asked to draw a 2D image, but I want to draw a wash basin in this case. Usually what we do when we're drawing a wash basin is we join this, and then we have the lower section over here, and then we have the depth over here, which has the circle, and then we have the area, and this has the pipe. So we understand, but this looks 3D, right? Why? Because all of these lines have been closed in this case. So what we do over here is we do not join this. We will not be joining the lower section over here. We will be breaking that so that it looks like 3D, but it is not actually. So when you end up making something like this, now in this section, again, this is a 2D line. This is again something like this. The difference between this is the gap over here, which makes it 2D. Are you able to understand? If I'm supposed to make a camera, like usually what we see in different um, areas where they've mentioned that, the area is under surveillance or something like that. We have cameras that are made over there, but again, this box is 3D. You cannot do that. So what we will do is we will make the first box, then we will use law of closure to make it look like that. To make it look like a 3D image, but it will not be a 3D image. It would be a 2D one. Using these into pictograms, using these into maybe logos also. Like for example, anything which is related to what does this look like?
Commands.
Yes, hands. Do you see any image forming between these hands?
Heart.
Ma'am, heart.
It's a heart. So in this case, what were we using? We were using figure ground. Where can you use this? You can use this in logo. You can use this in poster. So let's say if I'm talking about blood donation, right? And this becomes the area where you are trying to say that it's been collected from here, and then any other illustration that you want to, put in over here at the bottom that helps you understand that it is something as in saving a life, right? So something which is related, or a campaign which is asking for help, that it's time to come together to maybe save a life. So in this case, where two hands, now one can be of one color and the other can be of another color, which means that there are two people that we are talking about over here. So we are using law of closure also in this case. We are using figure ground also in this case. So it is something that you can practice not only for your pictograms or for signages, but it is something that can be used overly for your poster, for your logo, for your banner also, maybe if you're talking about whenever we are designing a logo, right? So logo is basically the identity of a company. When you start designing the logo of a company, how do you start that? How do you start the brainstorming or the process of it? Can anybody tell me?
If
Ma'am,
you
the immediate words or something which comes to our mind related to that topic.
Perfect. Anybody
Ma'am,
else who has a different take?
well,
if it is a company logo, then we can first of all understand what is the vision, what is the why what company it is for, like whether it is a
Okay.
food related, whether
ma'am,
it is
product.
like industrial, or what
Mm-hmm.
is the vision, what is the vision of the
Okay.
company. And
All
the
right.
color scheme will be every time dependent on which type of industry or which type of company it has been set up, whether it is a
All right.
business, whether it is a food company, then the logo
Mm-hmm.
color should be accordingly. So all these
Mm-hmm.
brainstorming points have been collected before identifying what logo we are supposed to use on that.
Okay. Now, in this case, what happens is you will not be asked to design a new company's logo, right? They'll give you an existing company, and you're supposed to redesign the logo of that. Majorly, the questions related to the logo part, they are asked in this zone only, where they are asking you to redesign the existing logo, which means the color family is already mentioned over there, right? So, on what basis are you redesigning the logo then? You know the product line already. You
What kind of
know,
service they provide and what are history?
okay. So, one thing, it's like a savior, I think, go through the
Understand by
existing
the target
companies
audience.
step by step, like anything from the government sector. कितने आपके अभी जितने भी लास्ट आपके गवर्नमेंट सेक्टर ने जो भी स्कीम्स निकाली हैं, whether it is for farmers, whether it is for students, whether it is for education, read those, all right, because through that you will be able to understand. First is the elements, The maximum government schemes, they use year of wheat as their element. Do you all know what year of wheat is? Okay,
No.
I'm pretty sure you've seen this particular part in logos on both sides, like this,
Yeah,
going on both
yeah, yeah.
sides.
Yeah,
And
ma'am.
then the illustration in the center. Then you have whatever the name of that particular scheme is. This particular part, this wheat straw is called your ear of wheat. It is going on both the sides. This is one thing which is commonly used in major government schemes or major government sectors. Now we've also to understand that these logos, they are made in a certain shape. Either it is made in a circle or sometimes in a triangle. So from here, we also need to understand the shape psychology. Why are they made in circles? Anything which is related to care, nourishment, they'll tend to do it in a circle. Anything which is related to softness, um, education, wholesome, baby products, they will make the logo in a circle because of the shape psychology. The shape helps us understand what kind of maybe service that they are providing. Is it something which is related to care? Is it something which is related to protection? Because of the circle being like a bubble sort of a thing. Anything which is in the delicate zone also, they tend to make it in circle. Anything which is in the form of triangle,
Ma'am,
this
aware.
is something for, sorry?
Ma'am, aware.
Aware. You can do a semicircle in that case, something like this, where in the lower section can be a triangle like this, and the upper section is a circle. So automatically अगर हम awareness की बात कर रहे हैं तो major time आप देखोगे कि hand gestures का इस्तेमाल किया जाता है ऐसे open करके upliftment के form में दिखाने के लिए. Anything which is an open area, वो awareness के लिए आपका जाएगा, not in a closed encompassed area. राइट सो अगर मुझे सर्कल दिखाना है लेकिन अवेयरनेस पे काम करना है देन व्हाट वील डू इज वील यूज कलर्स रेडिएटिंग आउट सो इट लुक्स एन ओपन एरिया एंड आल्सो रेडिएटिंग टुवर्ड्स द आउटर साइड राइट
Yes, ma'am.
anything so coming back to the triangle anything which is related to growth aim focus economy that will all go in for triangle so to speak of a mixture of triangle like this or a triangle like this. They all fall in the same category then in that case. Now, let me know how many of y'all are here for masters.
I am.
I'm also
I
from
am.
master.
Yes,
No,
ma'am.
right? All right. Any problem up till logo?
Ma'am,
No.
sometimes triangle can also depict like danger side, like
Yes.
beware,
Yes,
है
absolutely.
ना,
That is
negative
a
side
part of
also.
Yes, absolutely. And that is a part of your pictogram family. So when you're choosing the shape for the logo, it is very important to understand as to what aspect of that triangle you are taking. Triangle, every color has a positive and a negative meaning. The circle, the triangle shape, any shape also has a negative and positive meaning. So anywhere you're trying to use a triangle, that is alarming, that is for danger as well. But now in this case, if you accompany it with red, if you accompany it with yellow, we understand it closely that it is something related to danger, life threatening, or caution. But if I'm adding, let's say, lavender or a pink color, automatically the color is subduing the main reason why triangle was used over there or why the psychology work does not work over there because one place you are giving the negative aspect of a triangle and the second place you are mellowing down with a softer color in that case so automatically your brain goes to something which is related to maybe growth or acceleration that you're trying to show over there so they go both hand in hand shape psychology and color psychology when you're using it for logo right The
Ma'am,
easiest way to start solving, yes,
I had a question regarding
tell me,
pictograms.
tell me.
Can we write something in the pictograms?
So usually pictograms are self-sufficient with the illustration. There is no need to write anything over there, because if you have to write, the whole idea of designing a pictogram goes to waste. It is something that does not need any write-up. Like you see it on your screen. Your microphone is switched off, right? So it is made red and there is a cross across it. Do you see anywhere written microphone off? No.
No. Like for example, there was a question that we had to draw a pictogram to depict beware of the dogs.
Yeah.
So can we not write beware? Just like
Okay. If you want to write beware, go ahead, write that. But make it a part of the illustration. Do not draw it and then write beware at the bottom. Make it a part of the illustration. Like maybe it's on the collar
yeah,
of the
okay.
dog, beware, something like this. Or maybe it's a bone that you're working around. Now, also, I just mentioned that if you see on the screen that the red part, which is your microphone, in relation to a pictogram, and nobody corrected me. Why is that? What you see on the screen as your microphone, is that a pictogram?
That's an
That
icon.
becomes an icon.
Icon.
Yes, absolutely. That's an icon, not a pictogram. Thank you so much. इस चीज को मुझे याद दिलाना पड़ा आप लोगों को. But nevertheless, the difference between a logo, icon, and pictogram is very simple. Logo is for a brand or an organization that helps us understand the identity of that company. An icon is anything that you see on the digital screen, whether it is your volume button or your application, if you're using any application and you see the screen has a certain illustration, that is an icon. If you see the same microphone over here on the screen, which is done like this on the screen, it is an icon. If you see this inside a classroom, that becomes a pictogram. Or if you see this in a hospital, that becomes a pictogram. So different areas the illustration is made, the name changes according to it, right? And a lot of times when we talk about icons, the logo in itself becomes the icon of that particular application. We've seen that happening, right? We've seen that for Zara, we've seen that for H&M, we've seen that for Swiggy. So their logo in itself becomes the icon of that particular application, so to speak of, because it is minimalistic. That is why these logos are also made in a certain way that it is understood, it is recognizable, it is memorable by a lot of people. Because if it is not, the whole idea of logo design goes to waste. Correct?
Ma'am, could you please tell the difference between the icon and the pictogram?
Start. Icon. Anything which is there on the screen, like your mobile phone or your tablet or your laptop or your TV screen. If I say volume off, do you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
A lot of times this is made like this as well, right?
Yes, ma'am.
When you see this on the screen, this becomes your icon, all right? And when we are talking about a pictogram, it is found in physical places. Physical places indoor, like a classroom, hospital.
Okay.
These are all physical places, right? You can go there, you can sit there. But you have to understand, now if this same illustration was made in a triangle or maybe in a diamond sort of a shape where it is made like this, what does this mean? Do not make a sound.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So the illustration can be same. When the placement changes, the area changes, it starts being called with a different name. If I say you have to make an icon, it is supposed to be on a screen, which means the illustration has to be very
Digitally.
Sorry?
So, ma'am, can we say it's a digital pictogram? Like,
Yeah, It's a digital pictogram. So instead of saying digital pictogram, we go ahead and say an icon. That's a smaller word. Why would you want to use two words to replace one single word, which is called an icon? Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Examination, in the examination, they'll ask you an icon, which means you're supposed to make it on the screen. So would you not make it in your presentation into this box? If they tell you to make an icon for Amazon, you've come up with 3, 4 options. Final presentation can be done in this box because that is how you see on the screen. Do you not?
Yes, ma'am.
That becomes presentation part, right? You will not
Okay.
be drawing it in a circle. Why would you do that? You probably go ahead with this. The presentation पे थोड़ा सा marks मिल जाता है. मतलब it makes your sheet look a little better in that case. Right? Shall we move ahead?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Ma'am, when you said icon for Amazon, did you mean the logo for Amazon?
Again, when we're talking about an icon for Amazon, it is, what do you think is the current icon for Amazon? What is the
It's
current icon for Amazon?
cardboard box. It
Ma'am,
used
the
to be a
arrow.
cardboard box. Now it is an A with that arrow. A to Z, the arrow.
Smile.
Currently, what we have
Windows of
as
that
the
cake
Ma'am, only the
also
arrow.
looks like a smile.
Okay, 1 minute. Currently, the Amazon's icon is just this arrow with this,
Yes, ma'am.
right? But is that the logo of Amazon?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No. So the icon can be different from the logo. It is not a necessity that the icon is supposed to be the same as the logo. We know that the logo of Amazon is different, right? That's Amazon and A to Z the arrow goes. But in this case, there was no need of mentioning that A. In the बीच में Amazon का logo ये था, A बना हुआ था और नीचे उसके arrow बना हुआ था. So it keeps on changing depending on how the company wants to show their interface as. It keeps on changing because we already know that there is a color scheme that Amazon follows, which is your yellow and black in this case, not exactly yellow, but like a tan color with black. So we already know that, okay, this is Amazon's icon because they've set that mark on us already, that what is the color scheme, and this arrow in itself is more than enough to understand that it is for Amazon. Now this area over here, any idea what this is?
It's a tape.
Peeling off.
Yeah, peeling off. Yeah.
Yes. So when you have these Amazon packages, you have the taping on top of it. So this small area is basically a tape being peeled off. So it looks like a package to us. So not necessary that the logo is supposed to be the same as your icon. Whoever asked that question, is that clear? Whose question was that?
Ma'am, also I had one more question that in
Yeah.
icons or in pictograms, like,
Hmm.
can we use more than 3 colors or more than 2 colors, or it has to be just 2 colors?
The easier it is to remember, the better it would be. So we'll try to go with 2 colors, and majorly we try to have one of them as white or black, unless it is something which is very alarming. So you might have red also in that. So let's say if you're talking about an exit or an entry one, so we usually have green and white for entry, and exit, fire exit. So that has your red and white. So when you keep your colors minimal, it is easy to remember also, right? The whole point of a pictogram is how easy it is to understand and it is, easy to remember also. So try to keep the colors very limited so that the person who is viewing it would be able to understand.
Okay.
All right. Shall we move ahead with the next topic? We still are left with a couple of more. Right? So in the next topics that we'll be dealing with, 2 topics side by side we will be doing, which is poster and banner. and I'll be telling the difference between these two and the layouts for both of them. So understanding how many types of posters are there is very important. You have advertisement posters, which is also for marketing. You have social awareness posters. You have movie or event posters. You have campaign posters, and then you have infographic posters. Out of all of these, any of them that you've not heard of?
Last two.
Sorry,
Last two.
last two, campaign posters and infographic posters.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Let's start with infographic first. This word is made up of two, which is info and graphic. So whatever the information you want to give is supposed to be in the graphical form. What we just studied about pictograms, the whole poster will be made out of these. Now, what kind of posters are these basically? Any place that you're supposed to make awareness one, wherein like a malaria outbreak or COVID-19 outbreak, or what are the precautions that you can keep, or anything which is related to do's and don'ts, again maybe on a metro station, that do not touch unattended luggage or maintain a gap between the yellow line. So if you've seen on that poster, you will find that these are made in circles, and then there's some written part at the bottom of it, right? And you will find a logo of DMRC, that girl, and that who's holding hands like this, and then the name is written over here. So this is a poster only, right? All the information is given in the graphical form. Nothing is written over here. Now, if I say that you're supposed to, now the questions that can come for infographic poster, they might give you a question like, a rural area has had a malaria outbreak in the last 2 months, and the Ministry of Health has asked, or is coming up with proper measures to take care of those people. Design a campaign for that particular event. Now, in this, I've used the word campaign, right? The word campaign over here means simply either a poster or anything which can be visually transmitted or visually told to a person. Like, it can be a pictogram poster, it can be a normal poster as well, which is a social awareness poster. Now, given that it is a rural area, we know that language plays a very important part over here. Language is a barrier over here. So not everybody would understand Hindi. English तो दूर की बात है, but not everybody would understand Hindi also. They might know how to speak, but they don't know how to read. That is a problem over there. So how do you tell them what to do and what not to do?
Ma'am, by a image?
Yes, exactly. So that becomes infographic. So it becomes an infographic poster falling under the category of campaign only. Campaign is basically an event that they are organizing, through which they are able to give a certain information. So blood donation campaigns are there, right? Or blood donation drives are there. We need posters again for that as well, right? To give out the information, where it is happening, when it is happening, is there an age limit that we are talking about? All of these things. So either they can use the word poster or they can use the word campaign over there, right?
Okay, ma'am.
Usually, these rural areas wherein they asked for a campaign, you use pictograms in form of infographic posters only. So it can be for, maybe they tell you that आपको एक campaign design करना है for rural area for COVID-19 precautions for COVID-19, right? Or maybe they tell you that because of the increasing pollution around us, design a campaign to help them understand the best possible way to take care of themselves by their own. Or what are the cues that they should keep in mind कि अब जाके मुझे डॉक्टर को दिखाना है. So do's and don'ts में आ जाएगा वो चीज, या फिर वो symptoms and precautions में आ जाएगा वो चीज कि अगर symptoms prolonged cough आपको अगर आ रहा है, then in that case how do you show that? Again वो pictogram में बनेगा आपका. Somebody who's coughing profusely, which means ये आप आगे में ये कफ दिखा सकते हो खांसते हुए, या फिर you show somebody who's coughing like this, हाथ करके ऐसे. If we are talking about fever or something like that, then again anything that you can draw with the minimum of detail. So the head area over here, this is red rashed, or maybe you have a cloth over here that is for coming, for the temperatures, or you have a thermometer that is boiling red in this case. So that shows a temperature rise in this case. So all of these chote chote information will be in that poster only, that tells us what are the symptoms. Now you can divide the whole poster, keeping a layout into mind. We know that in communication design, in visual communication, your eye tends to move from top left to right corner bottom, which means it goes from top left to right, left to right, left to right, finally rests at the right corner. So you can start with maybe dividing the whole of it into two parts, wherein the left one becomes your triangle and the right one becomes something like this. So this shows care, which means anything which is related to protection or care. All of these will be mentioned here. The one in triangle at the top, these are the caution or maybe the symptoms. So again, shape psychology has come over here. So maybe all these symptoms could have also been like in small triangles, adjacent triangles that are made over here. This becomes a breaker for me. So maybe COVID-19, ya Suraksha, something caption sort of a thing that you are mentioned over here in the center. Anything that makes your poster look visibly a little more appealing. That's what we're talking about, right? The rest of them, that's the easiest that you can come across, whether it is your advertisement or marketing that we're talking about, social awareness. Again, you need to add a slogan to it. Now, again, when we're talking about the layouts, your poster, it will be made in a vertical format, wherein your poster gets divided into the three parts. The top one is called your header. The bottom one is called your footer. And the center one is your main area that you're working on. Now, what is the information that goes on header and what is it that goes in the footer? The header basically has who is organizing that particular campaign. So if I'm talking about a blood donation one, then you will have a logo of that particular hospital or that campaign who's organizing it along with the name of that particular organization. The center one again will have an illustration with a slogan that you can write across it, and then the relevant details that we have, which is what is the venue, what is the time, and if there is an age limit that we are talking about, all of the information gets dispersed over here. The footer, that is basically the add-on information part, which should have any contact number, any mail ID, or maybe a website that they can check on later to understand
Planning.
if there are more. So basically, this is the RSVP area. A lot of these posters, you'll also find that they gave a QR code, like a scanner sort of a thing, somewhere placed on their poster. Why do they do that? So that if anybody wants to get in more information
And more
about that
information.
particular, yes, so it is basically for that. So they put in that QR, just a minute. Yeah, they put in that QR and they mentioned that for more details, scan the QR. Yes, go ahead. Who was it?
Yeah, I was asking that this mail thing or that QR thing is for the info posters or the awareness poster, right? Not for
So
advertise,
it can be not for what?
not for advertisement or movie posters. We don't have to do this for those posters.
It completely depends, darling. It completely depends what kind of poster are you planning on making. Let's say if I'm talking about iPhone has come up with a new product, they're launching that product now, right? And my poster majorly has, the colors of that particular phone and one specific detail that they want to pinpoint, like maybe there is a change in the camera. So I've made that illustration only, but there are more details. So they can, put that QR over there and mention it that, for more details of the product, scan. Or maybe they've given like a voucher sort of a thing. So scan the QR, avail the voucher. Something that can make the poster interactive. So it is not a hard and fast rule. that you have to mention it for only infographic or for campaign or for social awareness. It completely depends how you are using that particular information.
Okay, ma'am.
All right.
Ma'am, for the government posters for
Yeah.
awareness, what do we put in like header and footer? The same information which you told us.
Yes, yes, absolutely. If it's from the Ministry of Health and anything related to that ministry, you can put it in the header, and in the footer, you can mention maybe a website or a mailing ID or a toll-free number, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Shall we move ahead with the next topic? We were talking about banner now. For banner, again, it is part of advertisement only. The only thing that we have to understand is that this is made in landscape. Poster is made in your portrait form. Banner is made in landscape form. The rest of the things remain the same. We have to understand that the amount of information that you're putting in for it. So for poster, if you're talking about, we can go 60-40 or 70-30 ratio, where in 60 and 70 is the illustration, 40 and 30 is the information. For banner, it is just the reverse. This becomes the information part and this becomes the illustration part. Now, why do we do that? Because this is something which is in our visual side. When we're talking about posters, the vision side is near us. That is why the illustration is made a little more attractive, and the information is not that much required, whether it is a campaign. So, of course, you will just tell the do's and don'ts. If it is for a social awareness, maybe a tagline is there or a caption is mentioned, and that is it that we need to do. But when we're talking about the banner, this is majorly for an event that is happening. अगर कोई आपका मान लो योगा से रिलेटेड कोई कैंपेन चल रहा है आपका, उसके लिए आपको बैनर बनाना है, देन अगेन आपको यू विल हैव टू टेल द positives about yoga in that case. So maybe you end up making an illustration where a person is sitting over here and there are different
Yoga poses.
yeah, you can do the poses, or you mentioned 3, 3, and 1 in the center, which means there are 7 chakras, and their body is made up of 7 chakras. So what you can do is that align these circles in a way that it looks like a rising sun sort of a thing like this, and each of them can show like a benefit sort of a thing, or any yoga postures that you want to mention. Then we need to mention the name of the event. If there is a name that is given to this particular event, then you mention that. Let's say if Art of Living presents the name of the event that is there. So you can have the header, the footer. So of course, the organizing team will have the information at the top. Yoga Sar maybe is the name of the event, right? That is
Ma'am, place.
mentioned then. Sorry?
Ma'am, place name.
Yeah, absolutely. So these lines are for that only. So you have the venue, you have the date.
Okay.
Now, if there is any, admission fees that is required, then of course you'll have to mention that also, that there is an admission fee that you can buy the ticket from here or something like that. Now, where do you place that? Of course, that will go on the left side. Now, in this also you can, because the banner is kept at a certain height, do you think a QR will help in this?
Yeah,
The
ma'am.
banner is
No,
not
ma'am.
at a vision line.
No.
No, ma'am.
Banner
No.
is not at a vision line, which means this is somewhere placed between two poles with the thread sort of a thing. So placing a QR will not be something which is, logical. So over here, we usually mention where you can, avail these tickets from, maybe from the website. So you mention the name of
Website
the
name.
website over there. Yes, exactly. And then bottom over here will have the RSVP number, right?
Ma'am,
Usually they have these tickets you can avail from gate number 1 or gate number 2. So वो बड़ा लिखा होगा gate number 1, tickets available at gate number 1, something like this. because venue तो आपने already दे दिया है यहाँ पर. So again, the information is mentioned over there. Anything that you did not understand in this? Now, the layout is very simple. The major problem that you will face over here is coming down to what illustration to draw over there, because that takes up a lot of time. So a trick for that, whether it is for poster or whether it is for banner, if it falls in the category of social awareness, ask yourselves two questions: why and how. From why you will get all the negatives, from how you can get the positives. Let's say if I'm talking about child labor, right, and you're supposed to design a campaign for you know, stop child labor. So the question why would be, why is there a problem of child labor? Because population is too high, there are too many mouths to feed,
Poverty.
right? Poverty, yes. It is something that people, the kids are
Nutrition.
forced to do. It is not something that they're doing willingly, which means ki slavery sort of a thing hai wahan par, right? So all of these words that are coming, poverty ho gaya aapka, then there is slavery happening over there,
Dark future.
dark future, ठीक है, mouths to feed, population ज़्यादा है. How can you solve this problem of child labor? गवर्नमेंट अगर मिड डे मील निकालना शुरू कर दे, which means that the students will go to school for that midday meal, because the parents over there, they are mostly worried about feeding the kids. That is why they send कि अगर तुम 5 रुपए भी कमा करके लेके आ रहे हो तो भी चलेगा, right? Do some work. So instead of running around on the streets and asking for money, midday meals is basically, government ने start ही इसीलिए किया था. The government started this midday meal just for the same reason, so that the kids, the parents would send their kids to school, right? Because they're providing with one-time meal, midday meal. Then penalizing the people who are actually putting these kids to work, heavy penalizing should be done over there. Then education related drives should be there, wherein you're telling the areas, these below poverty line areas, you're telling them the benefit of this particular education as a system. So we've got the negatives and we've got the positives over here. Now choice is your, whether you want to find the illustration from the negative side or whether you want to come up with an illustration from the positive side. So if you're doing an illustration which is negative, please accompany this with a positive tagline so that it is balanced. If you end up making an illustration which is positive, a caption is more than enough for it. There's a difference between caption and tagline, right? So when you're making a negative image, let's say if I'm talking about an illustration, this is something that I've already discussed with a lot of students where we've dealt with this topic, where the kid is actually entrapped inside the glass and in the background you're able to see maybe a kettle. So we are able to understand that you're talking about maybe chai wali shop pe kaam karne wale bacche. So when we're talking about why is there a problem, क्योंकि आपके पास पैसे नहीं है, आपको काम करना पड़ रहा है, because they are not kept by their own will, इसलिए वो यहाँ पर बंद है इसमें, right? He is been entrapped in this. So the illustration is negative, which means the caption has to be positive in this case. So the caption can be placed over here, caption can be placed in sync with this, whatever you feel that is relevant for the better looking of the illustration. So the same thing can be done for your banner also. If it is for social awareness, if it's for yoga, then why do you think people should practice that, and how can you do that? Maybe आप offices में इस तरीके का कुछ लगा रहे हो जिसमें every week you have one day for yoga, right? 1 day 1 hour for yoga, something like that, or your schools में करा रहे हो आप ये चीज. So that is for your how. Why? Because it is good for your health, it is good for your body balance, it is good for your mental health. So again, I've got certain words from the negative, I've got certain words from the positive. Now choice is mine whether I want to pick a negative illustration, a positive illustration for my answer. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am.
Okay. Yes. Does anybody have a doubt?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I wanted to ask, ma'am, when we are asked to draw a banner for social awareness for Earth Day
Yeah.
or for ma'am recycling, then how
Yeah.
should we approach it? Because I don't think कि मैम उसमें हम लोग को ज्यादा राइट अप का जरूरत होना
नहीं
चाहिए.
उसमें in that case you don't need too much of write up, but if it's an awareness poster, let's say for cycling, right? um, give me a question. What was the question?
Ma'am, I was solving. They asked to draw a banner for recycling, ma'am.
Recycling.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So again,
Yes, ma'am. And how it will protect
yeah,
the
and how it will.
environment.
Perfect. So again, ask yourself why and how. Why do you need to start this? And how can you do that? It all starts from home. You start from your home before you go make a change outside. So anything that you can illustrate over there. अभी illustration के साथ आपको एक स्लोगन तो देना ही पड़ेगा ना. अभी मान लो कोई एक कैंपेन इस तरीके का निकाला है, बेस्ट आउट ऑफ वेस्ट, राइट, जिसमें आप पार्ट ले सकते हो. So what have I done over here? The question was to make a banner specifically for this one particular topic, which was recycling. But now I've used that topic into an event that is happening. So वो मेरी choice थी कि मैंने उसको एक event में convert कर दिया. You can even go ahead and do that. That will make you put in more details now in the poster or in the banner कि वो campaign हो किधर रहा है. छोटी छोटी जगह भर जाएंगी आपकी उससे. So you can do that also.
Okay, ma'am.
All right. We move on to the next topic, which is stamp. Now, this particular topic has not come up in NID for the last few years, but aata tha. This topic used to come. So I'm just going to do a run through of it because the illustration remains the same. We only have to understand the technical part, which is the layout of it. So when we talk about stamp, different sizes, different shapes can be used. The original size of the stamp is less than an inch, but when you're drawing it on the paper, you can do 7 inches by 7 inches or 8 inches by 8 inches, depending on what size is available to you. This is of a square, but if the question asks for a circle or an elliptical one or a rectangle one, you can change according to that. Now, in this case, the certain informations that are there on a postal stamp, that is the name of the country, the year, the price, and then a slogan. This is an optional thing. Usually they have for Independence Day, for Martyrs Day, or maybe if you've gone through your workbook 3, you will find there are tons and tons of questions like Mangalyaan pe banana hai aapko, mother care or motherhood pe banana hai aapko, any topic that has been given to you. Now, as we discussed in our visual communication part, we start from the left and we end up to the right. So the most important information on the postal stamp is the name of the country. So we start from the left. We will be using 2 languages because not everybody knows Hindi and not everybody knows English. So one language over here and the other language would come at the bottom over here, depending if I want to keep it in the horizontal or in the vertical, depending on the space that is given to me or the space that I use after the illustration. Second is the ear. So you can mention the ear over here, or you can even mention the year below the country name at the top. Last is the price. You mention the price over here in this corner. So all 4 corners are taken care of. The center area is left off for your illustration and caption. Again, different layouts for that. Top can be illustration, bottom can be your write-up or the slogan. You can have illustration at the left, write-up on the side. You can have illustration in the center and maybe across it as your tagline or your caption. The font text, the font that you're using over there is supposed to be readable. You would not want to use a cursive handwriting, whether it is for poster or for banner or for postal stamp, because the readability becomes an issue over there. So try to use spaced out fonts. There are two ways of doing it, whether it is double alignment or whether it is triple alignment to make your answer or the write up part a little more neat. For double alignment, again, triple alignment, the same gets written into 3 lines. Now, in both of these, the words that are, or the alphabets that I had used had no middle grudge line over here. Let's say if I'm talking about sleep. Now for E and P, we have the middle line over here. So the same thing for triple alignment goes for so the write-up starts looking a little more neater. Instead of starting with a bigger alphabet and then slowly alphabet का size छोटा होते जाता है. That is one thing that happens to major of the students. So please use alignment for neat work in that case. Shubh Mathur is feeling sleepy. Please have a little water. Sir, all right. Let's move ahead with the next
Ma'am,
topic. Yes, tell me.
ma'am, like, can you repeat if we can write like slogans on the stamps?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Let's say if we're talking about mother care or something like that. So the illustration that comes to my mind is something like this. Let's say that's the easiest illustration that comes to my mind right now. In this case, it looks like a mother holding a baby like this. So the illustration can be across it, somewhere over here. Or if I wanted to go ahead with an illustration in the 3/4 view, so now it becomes like this on the side. So the illustration fits on the right side over here. Now, what was that question of yours? Did you want to see where the illustration along with the write-up can be placed or the kind of slogan? What was it? Who asked that question? Is she here? Will I move ahead? All right. So we've done with poster. We've dealt with banner and postal stamp. We talked about logo, icon, pictogram, a little of signage. How would you guys want to discuss? Do you guys want to pick up another topic which is from the family of communication design only, which is maybe storyboarding and process drawing, or something which is related to product family? Which question would you want to pick up next?
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
just a brief on storyboarding.
Ma'am, can we do
Storyboarding.
Storyboarding.
Then storyboarding.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So I'll start with storyboarding and process drawing simultaneously and go ahead and tell you the details or the differences between these two, whether they are same and on what grounds are they similar, right? So the similarity between the process drawing and storyboarding is that they are both made in frames, right? They'll ask you that in 5 steps you're supposed to show, changing SIM card, or in 5 steps you're supposed to show sharpening of a pencil or something like that. And storyboarding also, they'll tell you that in 4 frames, 5 frames, you're supposed to come up with a story between 2 characters, maybe a toothbrush and a tongue cleaner, or maybe a pencil and a sharpener or an eraser. So in this case, in both the questions, using frames or using a certain area into boxes is common. The difference between them is the vision line, or when we are talking about the area consumption over here. How much can you zoom in and how much can you zoom out? When we're talking about process drawing, knowing that it is a sequential drawing, wherein the step by step is very easy to understand. Let's, for example, talk about sharpening of a pencil. So what should be the first box of mine? It should be something which is related to understanding whether the pencil is broken or something like that. So that is my first. So if the pencil is broken, I'm able to show in the first box something like this. The second one can be I've identified a sharpener and I am placing the pencil inside it. So this becomes my second. Now, if to understand how your screen or how you're able to see it on the screen, that is what you'll be drawing, because that is what you're seeing actually when you're doing that particular job also. So when your second frame should be, you're holding the pencil like this, wherein the thumb is on the side and the point finger is at the top. Third frame would be where you've twisted the pencil like this, and now the placement of your hand has changed, which means that the action is different now. This becomes your third frame where the thumb has come up on the top and you have your remaining fingers visible over here, and you also see a difference wherein the scrap has come out. So that becomes my third frame. Fourth is where you are able to see pencil sharp. Fifth, you've discarded it like this over here and you're maybe writing something. So that becomes 5 frames. Now, what you see on the screen is actually what. Okay, I got a question from sharpening of the pencil through blade. Yes, absolutely. The question has not asked specifically to show whether it is through a blade or a sharpener or maybe an ulfa, whatever you feel comfortable with. You could have used blade, which means that you're holding the blade in a certain way. That is also very important. How are you using the blade? If you're using it like this, which means more of hand gestures are important over there. So that can be done. So sequential drawing, no extreme zoom ins and extreme zoom outs are not advised.
Ma'am,
Yeah, tell me.
ma'am, is it necessary to use hand gestures in everything, like in process drawing?
Wherever it is relevant, try to do that. Otherwise, it looks incomplete. Like, for example, if I'm talking about, let's say, the same sharpening of a pencil, I could have drawn that without the use of hand gestures also. But how will I show the pencil has moved its place now?
Yes, ma'am, but maybe we can use arrows.
You can do that. But again, I'll just give you an example. Wait. This is something that we discussed early on in the classes when we were talking about process drawing as a topic. When you tend to use hand gestures, that gives a little more space utilization also of the screen.
Ma'am, but for example, in like Maggie
Yeah.
instruction packet, there are no
Yeah.
hands. It's just
Yeah.
so we can do that in some situations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can do that. It's not a hard and fast rule where you're supposed to use hands. For somebody who has a problem with hand gestures, in out of 4 boxes, at least try to make it in one. At least when you're serving the final product, use a hand gesture over there so that the examiner knows that you're aware of it, right? But wherein you are showing very close proximity products, like changing a bulb, a light bulb, or maybe changing your SIM card of the phone. Obviously, you are coming in contact with the phone and your hand because you're using a pin to take out the SIM slot over here. Therein, you can use, right? Small areas, not necessarily in all of the frames, but wherever it is necessary, try to use there. All right. Of course, if they tell you that you have to do it, you have to show a process of making a product on a packaging, you need not make hand gestures over there. But if they tell you that you have to make it for a kid, like for a Lego toy, of course you will have to make hand gestures over there because the kid, how will the kid know that I'm supposed to hold this piece like this or piece like this? There they would need hand gestures over there. So
And ma'am, one more thing.
yeah.
Like if like we have to draw something and we have to draw it in 4 frames, right? And in
Yeah.
first frame, it is needed that we have to use hands just so
Yeah.
that we can see what is it and all. And if we don't need by chance any hand gestures in another 3 frames or 2 frames, so will
Yeah.
it be possible?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
जरूरी तो
Just
नहीं है
like
ना कि हर किसी में hand gestures use करने
नहीं,
हैं.
no, it's not necessary हर किसी में use करो. Majority times we use hand gestures also to give an understanding to the examiner that you are aware of the ratio. Because if I am making a sharpener which is too big and the pencil is too small, how will the examiner know that you have the basic idea of ratio and proportion over there? So if I'm holding a sharpener like this, I know that the sharpener size with respect to the human hand is something that I'm aware of, right? That is why human hands majorly log use karte hain for process drawing, to give an understanding that you're aware of ratio.
Okay,
Baki
ma'am.
it's
Thank you.
completely a choice whether you want to illustrate it with hand gestures or not. And like I mentioned, extreme zoom ins and extreme zoom outs is something that we do not go ahead with, because if you're making Maggie and supposedly if some kid has shown the pot from the top view where the water is boiling and I'm seeing the top view like this, would you even do that yourself? You would burn your face. Then why would you draw that? Talking about process drawing, we try to maintain a certain angle, a visual angle that we are trying to talk about, where you are seeing the object very clearly wherever it is placed and however, the process is moving ahead with. Right. When we're talking about storyboarding, again, this uses frames, but in this, you can do extreme zoom ins and extreme zoom outs because that helps us understand what emotion or of the character we are talking about over there. It's like when you're watching a movie and when you're watching a play in your college or in your school. So when you're sitting in a theater and there's a play or a musical that is going on the stage, you're not able to zoom in and zoom out, right? You're not able to see the expressions on a person's face. But when you're watching a movie in a theater, you are able to see each character very clearly because they are showing it on the screen like this. If they want to introduce the character from the back, you are able to see the back of the head, and then you are able to see the side maybe of the person, and then finally you are able to see the front of the person. So it is shown in 3 frames consecutively, and that's how a video is created. But if I want to show that on the sheet over here, I'll have to show all of them into 1 frame. So this 1 frame would look like 1, 2. So over here the back, over here the side, and over here the front maybe, and this will be counted as 1 frame of mine. So when we are doing storyboarding and they ask you to make a story, what is the difference between, okay, I will come to that in a bit. The question was, what is the difference between a storyboarding and a comic script? So a lot of times, let's say they tell you that in 4 boxes you're supposed to show a story. You can do extreme zoom ins and extreme zoom outs. You can show, expressions of a person and then help understand the whole idea of what you're trying to show as a story over there. So let's say if this is my sheet, my answer sheet, this is the area that I've been given, and they tell me that in 5 boxes you are supposed to illustrate the story. If the boxes are not provided to you, you can choose the shape and size of the box according to your choice of the story. If it's something which is funny, if it's something which is on the anger side or the danger side or violence side, the shape of the boxes or the frames would also change. If I'm drawing something like this, or if I'm making a frame which is very angular, if you see, the breaking of the frame or the sheet is very dynamic. First, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Now, if in 1 frame I want to show a zoom in view of the face or an expression happening, I can further on break that particular box into a secondary one and show an extreme zoom in of the expression. Extreme zoom in of the expression, and that इसके बगल वाले frame में there would be a zoom out area where he is being maybe slapped or he's slapping somebody. So this is something that we see in a movie, right? Or maybe when we're watching a television, a televised thing, that there also, if somebody slaps, then you see the same action happening in 3 times, 1, 2, 3. So that's an add-on effect that is being shown. So if I want to show that after this, the person is falling off, so in 1 frame, he goes in a body swing like this. In another one, he is close to the ground. His legs are up in the air. And in last one, he has fallen onto the ground. His legs are up, and finally he is flat. So in one box, I've tried to show the whole process of him falling down. Now, how do you differentiate between this, wherein this whole box is one and these are repetitions? So the main box, give it either a bold line or maybe double line, or color it with a breaker. So I get an understanding that this is one box. This all is accompanied in one box. You don't need to mention it 1, 2, 3, 4. Usually when we read something, it goes from left to right. So the amount of area that is being captured by the box or overlapped by the box helps us understand what number of the box that is. We also have dialogue boxes when we talk about if it's a conversation happening. We have action words or action lines that we're talking about. Like over here, if he was getting slapped, so lines like this, lines like this. Finally, he's fallen like this. So if somebody is slapping, if somebody is even poking, if somebody pokes, let's say over here on the cheek line, right? So you have these lines coming out. These are distress lines, or these are action lines that usually we use to show a certain action like poking. So there is something happening with the skin over there. So lines like these, words around it, something like this. So they just add a certain value to your storyboarding. Now, difference between storyboarding and comic scripting that we were talking about. Again, the word itself, comic scripting, it's something which is supposed to be funny, which means exaggeration of the characters can be done in that particular scripting that you're doing, which means extreme exaggeration of maybe eyes, or something which is like a character design sort of a thing that you're doing over there. That all can be done in comic scripting. Storyboarding, again, depending on what kind of story you're building, your dialogue boxes, your illustration, your character, again, it completely depends on the storyline that you've picked. If I say that you have to show a conversation happening between a pen and a pencil, now this following question falls in which category? A storyboarding or a comic scripting? Can you tell me?
Comic.
Okay. If you create something comic about it, yes.
Like in a funny way.
Why can't it be storyboarding?
No, it can be.
Exactly. It completely depends on how you are opting the question, right? If this is something which is unrealistic, right? Let's say if I say that you're supposed to design a comic script, or you're supposed to write a story around the word pocket. This is again something that we've discussed in the class. There are certain questions that are given to you that you are supposed to write a story around a single word, or maybe multiple words. So if you're supposed to make a story around the word pocket, it can be as the main element or it can be as a side element also. If I want to make it as a main element, I was walking down the street and I was carrying my lucky coin in my pocket, and when I went down into the pocket to take out my mobile phone, my lucky coin went and fell into the gutter. Um, right, and I did not notice that. When I got back home, I checked my pocket and the coin was missing. I got worried and I started looking here and there, but I could not find. In the meanwhile, in the next box, you are showing that the coin is sitting in the ditch, very dirty and everything, and the coin is thinking to himself, ki, oh, how the tables have turned. I was once warm and cozy into a pocket, and now I lay in the ditch. So this whole story, it's an unrealistic story, right? But also a realistic one, because the earlier part was realistic, that sometimes it could happen that you lose your thing, but the last one becomes an unrealistic one. So will this fall in storyboarding or will this fall in comic book now?
Story.
Exactly. Are you able to understand the difference between these two now? It's a very thin line, very very thin line. वो thin line cross की तो comic scripting में jump कर जाओगे, और उसको नहीं किया तो you are still in storyboarding file only. Adding of dialogue boxes, yes, you should do that. Again, space utilize हो जाती है आपकी, and you can also go ahead with अगर ये कुछ कह रहा है बंदा तो इसका dialogue overlap कर रहा है इस line पर, you can do that. It just makes it look more interactive. All right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there any doubt up till now?
Yeah, ma'am, I have a question.
Tell me.
So when we are like drawing storyboarding and stuff like this,
Yeah.
so what amount of detail should we give to the background?
Not a lot. Not a
Not
lot.
a lot.
No,
Okay.
absolutely not. If I, like in this case, I was showing a process happening, right? In the
Yeah.
background, you can just make these lines that shows that consistent lines, which means it looks like a building block or something like that. Just do a little of hatching here and a hatching a little of here. So I know that there is something happening in the background, but what exactly, I don't know. I need to focus on the foreground part. That's it.
Okay. 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 Thank you.
You're
Ma'am,
welcome.
if we are adding dialogue in the boxes, then that will lie under the comic strip, na?
So dialogue boxes, again, not necessary if it is whether, if it's a comic scripting or a storyboarding. If I'm saying that there is a conversation happening between two people, if two human beings are talking and I need to add in a dialogue box, is it necessary? It would be called, a comic script.
No, ma'am.
No, it is completely dependent on the storyline that you've picked, on the characters that you've picked, and what you want to show in that dialogue. Like, let's say, I'll give you an example. In 5 boxes, you're supposed to show a painful incident that happened with you today. ठीक है? अभी this can be storyboarding, it can be comic also ना. वो मेरे ऊपर है कि मुझे उसको कैसे comic में convert करना है. Painful, it could be that somebody was tickling me इतना कि I started laughing, and laugh करते करते I slipped from the bed. Yeah, I fell off the bed. So it was painful for me, but then again मैं exaggeration of expressions के through हंसते हुए दिखा सकती हूँ, which means वो comic scripting में चला जाएगा आपका, क्योंकि मैंने exaggeration of character दिखा दिया है. Painful incident. I got up from my bed, and as I was moving towards the door, my little finger of the foot, it hit the corner of the bed. That becomes a painful incident for me. That is storyboarding for me.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? That मेरे को पैर में चोट लगी, and then for the next 5 minutes I was pressing onto the little thumb, sorry, pressing onto the little finger and waiting for all the gods to just relieve me from that pain. That is storyboarding. But if the same type of story पैर में लगी and it felt as if कि वो फिंगर यहाँ से कट के बाहर निकल गई है, this finger is paining separately, and then finally when the pain was relieved, it is coming back to this. Now this is something which is non-realistic. This goes in comic. Are you understanding the difference?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Whose
ma'am.
question was that?
Ma'am,
So
I
the
have
same
another
topic.
question.
Yes, tell me.
So, like in certain questions, or like
Hmm.
usually, the storyboarding is it is like a pre-production, right? So when
Hmm.
you are like making a movie or animation, something like that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
before making the actual product, you make the storyboarding, right? So
Yes.
the way the frames are divided, right?
Yeah.
So don't you think that it will hinder the process? Like if I have to show like
Mm-hmm.
uh, a certain action. Like, for example, there is a question, right? So, for an
Mm-hmm.
animated movie, you have to maybe draw an. Okay, so the story can be like for an animated movie, you have to show like an old man is making a car in his garage, right?
Okay.
And after a few struggles, and he makes the car. So
Okay.
when I am like making the storyboards, when
Mm-hmm.
I'm breaking the frames like this, so
Okay.
don't you think like when we will actually animate it or show it on the screen, it will
Yeah.
hinder the format because the screen is like HD, it is a specific ratio, 720, it is a specific ratio. So
Yeah.
re-breaking all these like frames into different pieces makes it more of a comic rather than storyboard.
Yes, that is why I mentioned that a lot of times the question will already have these boxes, right? If at all it is not, if at all this breaker is not mentioned, you have a choice to break it as per your story. If you want
Okay.
to go, like in this case, this is already looking like a comic script because of
Yeah.
the exaggerated animation over here. So that can be done like this. This looks like a comic script. But if you want like a proper storyboarding thing happening, this is also a way of illustrating, wherein this is one strip, this is second strip over here, and this is third, and then the fourth one. So automatically this also gets broken into five. You have a
Yeah.
choice that is completely in your hands how you want to break it. As per the story, if you remember, I told that as per the story, whether it is a sad story, whether it is something related to anger, we will be using the shape of the box frames also. If it is something in the comic end, I would probably use something like a curved shape over here,
Yeah.
right? Because it's
Yeah.
more of a softer and mellow kind of a shape. Yes, tell me what?
Yeah, so like a little follow-up question. Uh,
Yeah,
as I'm opting for the animation
animation.
for
I
masters,
know.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so the for masters, should I go for like a more professional approach, like the one with like where I am keeping in mind, yeah, or the yes. So I should stick with the original one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And whatever add-on things that you want to put, because of course you are supposed to show them how you are different from a bachelor student, right?
Yeah.
So over there, your marks will be for characters and the words or the action lines or the action words that you are using that would help them understand. So if it is for an animated thing, so then these things. This is
Oh,
where you will get more marks, right? You can
okay.
keep the frames as simple as you want, but use these then in that case to exaggerate a little.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
All right.
Ma'am, I
Okay,
have a question.
tell me.
Ma'am, Sivshar had said that in storyboarding, we have a
Mm-hmm.
square or rectangular box in the same
Mm-hmm.
size. Like all the frame are in the same size. It won't cut
Mm-hmm.
the mark if we like resize the frame, right?
Absolutely not. Like he must have mentioned it when the boxes are already provided by the examiner, right? So usually you will have squares or rectangles because NID usually mentions the boxes. This breaking is only for the option where they've not provided the boxes already and you want to break it as per your choice, right? This is only when you have a free space. वैसे आप जितने questions देखोगे NID के वहां पे ये boxes ना वो already बना के आपको देते हैं. Major of the questions you will find कि वो boxes provide करते हैं आपको. In case नहीं देते हैं boxes provided, you have an opportunity to do this.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
अगर ये लगता है कि आई डोंट नो हाउ टू बिकॉज क्या होता है कि हमारी आदत है वी हैव अ हैबिट ऑफ illustrating in a fixed square or a rectangle, right? So our hand is also wired in that way. When the shape changes, alignment किस angle पे बनाना है चीजें, that also becomes a problem, that how much area do I want to use now for what illustration. So if you feel that even a blank space is given and this kind of a layout is difficult for you to make, do not do it because this is something that you will be doing for the first time in the examination अगर अभी तक नहीं किया है practice इस तरीके का तो, and you do not want to experiment in the examination, right? This is also a way of solving, but if you've not practiced something like this, do not opt because it would only confuse you, right? Any more questions? Because I don't think so. Product family, I will be able to take up the class, so that I would leave up to Harshit sir. He was planning on taking that question. So up till now, whatever we've discussed, is there anything that you would want to ask? Any questions?
Ma'am,
I
how
have a
do we?
question. Yeah, you go ahead, please. I'll ask later.
Yeah, tell me.
Ma'am, how do we present pictograms?
Depending what information you are giving out, वो shape में आपका allot हो जाएगा. If it is an information you are giving, you can use a diamond, you can use a circle. If it is alarming or do not do, that would go in a triangle. तो आप shapes का इस्तेमाल करोगे, जो भी बना रहे हो उसको shape में करो. जैसे if you're talking about a washroom situation happening over there or a restroom, if you're talking about, then again that information can go in a diamond also, and that can go in a circle also. This can go in this, and if you're talking about for powder room or for women, if we're talking about, then automatically the shape changes. A little more dynamic shape comes into play over here. So ये आपके shapes के अंदर आप बनाओगे. And then what color you want to choose, you can choose your color accordingly. Pictograms कोशिश करना 2 colors से ऊपर ना जाओ. Do not use more than 2 colors in that case.
Ma'am, we were given a question about give 5 signages you see in an airport. So
Yeah.
we have a rectangular shape of the signages like exit or arrivals, or so can
Yeah.
we use that in the same shape because
Yeah,
they have
absolutely. Absolutely. There is no hard and fast rule. Again, color पे depend करेगा बेटा. If it's an information, you are doing it in blue or green, right? तो आप कर सकते हो. अब मुझे बनाना ही अगर टेक ऑफ का है, which means कि I have to show an aeroplane being ऐसे टेक ऑफ होते हुए अगर वो जा रहा है, तो ये तो ऑटोमेटिकली आपका रेक्टेंगल में ही आ रहा है. तो चॉइस है आपकी वो कि आपको किस में देना है. अब मुझे इसको भी और करना है, आगे चेंज करना है, आई कैन डू एन इलस्ट्रेशन इन दिस शेप नाउ. मेरे ऊपर है कि मुझे कैसे देना है उसको. या आई कुड हैव डन समथिंग लाइक दिस because it is something which is related to physical displacement. So I would probably choose a triangle at both the ends, not a curved one. So you're changing the shape again. Got it, Vidita?
yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, I have a quick
Yeah.
question. Like,
Tell
I'm
me.
appearing for the masters. It's a interaction design. What kind of
Yeah.
question would be targeted this year, and how I'm going to present them? Like, I need a idea on that note for interaction and graphics both.
So revolve. See, again, it's very difficult to tell, what kind of questions they will be targeting on. Anything between the lines of application design, anything on the lines of storyboarding, again for interaction or for graphic area, both. For graphic and interaction, your, limitation, बहुत limitation है आप लोगों के type of questions पर, because सब चीज बहुत overlap में चल रही है. ग्राफिक का पार्ट है, लोगो डिजाइन का आ सकता है, पिक्टोग्राम का आ सकता है आपको, अगेन कैंपेन डिजाइन का आ सकता है आपको क्वेश्चन. अगर हम इंटरेक्शन बेस्ड की बात कर रहे हैं, जस्ट गिव मी अ मिनट. हाँ जी, कैन यू हियर मी?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
related to graphic part, if you're talking about, like I mentioned, anything from the logo aspect, they can ask you in storyboarding wala. Interaction is something that the image is trying to interact with you. Like, for example, आपको किसी website का दे सकते हैं कि आप किसी इंडिजिनस वेबसाइट को आपको डिजाइन करना है, उसका आपको फ्लो चार्ट दिखाना होगा थोड़ा कि फ्रॉम 1 to this, सेकंड टू दिस, थर्ड टू दिस, इस तरीके के फ्रेम्स में आपको दिखाना होगा. और वी कैन टॉक अबाउट रूरल एरियाज में, जैसे we've come up with ATMs for them and they do not know how to operate or they're scared of operating that ATM. So we see that there are these boards that are made next to the ATMs, right? Wherein they are telling you that first step kya hai, second step kya hai, third step kya hai. So again, these types of questions can be asked where they're trying to make the life of a consumer a little easy through these visual interactions. Questions like these.
Okay, got it. So we can use the color schemes in this, right? We
Yes,
can
absolutely.
represent our okay.
Absolutely. All right, guys. I think that's that for today. The rest of y'all who already have my phone number, we've been added into different groups, can reach out to me if you guys have any problem related to whatever topics we've discussed today or anything at all that you want to discuss before the examination. अभी मैं कुछ भी suggest नहीं करूंगी आपको नया करने के लिए because it will only confuse you. Whatever you've done up till now, just go through that. Just be confident with it, right? Time management is the key. So in your examination also, if you're given 4 questions, 3 questions, then please go through all of the questions first. Just do a little of brainstorming for all of them so that you're not left with any question which is blank. All right. All right. That's that for today. Thank you so much, guys. All the best.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
All the
ma'am.
best, guys.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anjali ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, guys, just take a 5 minutes break. Then we will again start with Ravinder sir, right? Aptitude part.
Yes, ma'am.